Morning, everybody. It's great to be back at the Edge again, and once again it's lived up to its fantastic reputation. I think everybody will agree. And just to keep on the theme of being a bit living on the edge, we're going to try something this morning a wee bit different, using the VR headsets that we've brought along. Fingers crossed if the technology works. So good news, I don't have a PowerPoint. Bad news, I'm going old school and reading from a lot of notes that I've got written in front of me, so bear with me. These are just really to remind me of all the things that I need to say, so I may not necessarily say them in the order that they're written down, but if you see me shuffling backwards and forwards, then that's the reason why. So the name of our project is Virtually Together, and it's about using virtual reality to tackle social isolation and loneliness. I'm going to talk a wee bit about the origins of the project. I'm going to talk about the partners that are involved in the project. One of those partners is the University of the West of Scotland. Is there any students here today from there? No? Good. They did threaten to come along, but that's fine. I'll talk obviously about the public libraries elements of the project, what we're doing now, and what we're looking to do in the future, because the status of the project is still very much at the early stages, so it's in flight, but there's still a lot that we're looking to do. But there's a lot that we've done up to date as well. We'll look at the devices that we use and what apps that we're using, and again, if the technology works okay, Paul will come down here with the headset on and we'll be able to cast what Paul's seeing up onto the screen, fingers crossed. And lastly, hopefully there'll be time, because obviously one of the themes today is digital participation. Participation being a key word here, because we might get one willing volunteer, hopefully, to come up and do one of the wee games that we do with the people that we work with as well. So don't all rush at once. So the background to the project is probably about 3 years ago now, I was involved in a procurement exercise that East Renfrewshire schools did, and what they wanted to do was to buy virtual reality headsets for classes, and I was involved in it really more of a kind of a courtesy kind of thing. And what they ended up buying was stuff called Class VR, which, again, talking old school, that's quite old school stuff as well now. Virtual reality is not new, as anybody who's ever seen The Lawnmower Man knows. That was, 20 odd years ago. But the technology has obviously come on leaps and bounds since then. So Class VR was basically the equivalent of the kind of Google Cardboard thing that you put a smartphone in. But what it used was something called Google Expeditions. And what Google Expeditions is, or was, I don't know if it still is, but what it was basically 360 images that the pupils would hold up and they would have a look around. And the class element of it was the fact that everybody would be looking at the same thing at the same time. So it was giving the teachers the opportunity to, lead a class essentially. And what I thought when I saw it was, that's great, but why can't we use it for adults? And why shouldn't it be public libraries that lead on that? So I'm halfway through a Red Dwarf marathon binge-a-thon, and ironically enough, one of the episodes I saw this week was one called Better Than Life. I don't know if anybody's seen it. Shame on you if you haven't. But I'm certainly not going to be saying that what we're doing is better than life. But one of the strap lines to the project that we're calling it is come and do your bucket list at your local library, because it's all about the experiences that people can do. And that's something that, good, the technology is working. That's a relief. Okay, so the partners, there's ourselves in East Renfrewshire, there's colleagues in Renfrewshire libraries, and as I said earlier, colleagues from the University of the West of Scotland. And between us, we developed a PLIF bid, which was successful. So we've used the funding to purchase 5 of these sets of kits for each of the project partners. So we've got 5, UBS has got 5, Renfrewshire have got 5. And I suppose the project itself is now starting to split into 2. The UWS, in terms of what they're doing, they are very much focusing on the students that they've got, and it's actually become part of their coursework. So I'll talk about this in a minute, but it's all about digital participation, and it's all about supporting health and wellbeing as well. Ourselves in Renfrewshire, in terms of like the formal part of the project, what we've been doing is teeing up groups and individuals for the students to work with. But outside of that project, we've actually been doing a lot more ourselves in terms of working with local organisations and individuals, which I'll tell you about. I think somebody mentioned earlier, is it the guy from Leeds, is he still here? One of the groups they were working with was, I can't remember the exact name, but it was something Helping Hands. It's the Helping Hands group in Newton Mearns in East Renfrewshire that we were working with. So I didn't know that Helping Hands was a brand. I thought they were just called that. Every day's a school day. And they're a voluntary organisation, and this is just taken from their website. If you're worried or stressed, feeling lonely or isolated, are caring for someone with dementia, or have experienced a bereavement, Mearnskirk Helping Hands can help. So for us, that was a good target group to get involved in. Very quickly, go over the kit that we did end up buying. So as you can see, what Paul's got on his head, this is an Oculus Quest. And Oculus Quest just came out probably about May, June last year, so it's fairly new. We waited, and I'm glad we did wait, because we could have gone down a couple of technological cul-de-sacs. Initially, we were almost going to buy the same kit that the schools had bought, but we very quickly realised that that was going to become obsolete, so we didn't go anywhere near that. We also considered options around third parties coming in and delivering VR stuff on our behalf. But again, we thought, no, that's not right. Library staff should be the ones who are getting the training, and library staff should be the ones who are working with the groups and the individuals. So we ended up going for these Oculus Quest devices, as I said. Everybody asks, how much are they? At the time that we bought them, which is about 6-7 months ago now, they were £400 each, which is maybe not as much as I guess some people might think. It's not that much more than a games console, for example. And these are 128 gig storage, so it's quite a lot. You can download a lot of content to that. They're wireless and they're portable, which is good, because some of the kit that we looked at previously, you really needed a lot of additional equipment and peripherals to make it work. You had to wire it into a PC. You had to, as we'll demonstrate shortly, you had to create a safe zone or a guardian zone, and you actually needed extra equipment to do that in some of the older devices as well, but these are good. They're very easy to use. They're designed for home use, so people should be able to pick up very quickly what it is you have to do with them. They're very portable, so we get 5 of them into a carrying case and we take it wherever we go. We don't base them in any particular library. Wherever we work with groups, we take the kit to them, whether that's to places like sheltered housing complexes, or whether a group comes into a library and we take them out to the library. So they're good from that perspective. The performance and the quality of the experience is amazing. I don't know if too many people have had a chance to use any of these. For me, I always find it hard talking to people, and I always say, it's amazing, it's incredible. But you really don't appreciate it until you've actually got the thing on, just how immersive the experience actually is. So what you're looking at here is the First Steps app, and that's something that we do with groups the very first time we bring the VR kit along to them. So what First Steps is, as you can see, and hopefully hear as well, can everybody hear that? Because one of the things that really adds to the experience is the sound, and the sound quality that comes out of these devices is amazing. You don't see it too well up on that screen, that's a bit light.
We can see it very well on the screen, but that's not
better.
Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so when somebody's got this on for the first time, this is the first app they do, what it shows them what to do is how to operate the controllers. So for first time users, when you've got that on, the visuals are quite stunning, as is the sound. And as you can see, what Paul's doing is he's learning how to use the hand controls and how to manipulate the environment that he's in. It's voice guided, as you can hear, so when you've got a group, once you give them the headsets, you can pretty much let them get on with it from that point of view. Everybody goes at a different pace. It took me, for the first time I tried it, a long time to get to grips with the grip function of it. So there's your virtual hand, a bit spooky.
Your virtual hands can do just about anything.
So you can pick up blocks, you can move things, you can chuck a paper airplane. This is a bit more challenging for a lot of people. So batting a ball. Well, you managed to get two. That's one more than I ever got, so that's good. So once you go through this app, it ends with a couple of games, which one of them involves dancing with a robot. Not many people choose to do that one. And the other one is more kind of a fun shoot-'em-up type of game, where you hold a gun and you've got to try and aim at targets. But it's all about just getting people used to using the controllers. So while Paul's going through that, I'll just very quickly go back to the project that the UWS were doing. So the students that were involved from the UWS actually weren't IT students. It was from their School of Health and Life Sciences, because what they were interested in, and this is why we became project partners, was how virtual reality could be used to work with older people, and very specifically it was about exercises and how VR can encourage and facilitate physical movement and activity and light exercise. Oh, you are doing a robot. Very brave. So Paul's not self-conscious in the slightest. Oh, here we go. I got my notes in the wrong order. That doesn't help at all. So the sessions that the UWS students did with the group that we teed up with them actually only took place earlier on this month. So we don't have much data back in terms of feedback from the students in terms of what that experience was. But for today, I did manage to get a couple of quotes from the students that went along, and I'll just read a couple of them out for you. I'll stick my glasses on for this one. The participants I spent time with all enjoyed the experience, and it gave me the opportunity to discuss light exercise and health benefits that it has. It was encouraging to see an older adult group being interested in new technology. I found the individuals who did partake became so much more relaxed and engaged when wearing the headset, telling me what was happening and afterwards wanting to discuss this experience. One participant did begin to open up with regards to loneliness in evenings, and another individual with learning difficulties became more talkative and able to make eye contact with me following the session, which he couldn't do before. I think this is a very good tool to break the ice or as a conversation starter in addition to the experiences. So, looking forward to getting the actual data back from the UWS once they've finished doing their exercise. So, what you're looking at the moment, that's what we call the home screen. It looks a bit like a James Bond villain's lair, but it's like the equivalent of your PC's desktop. And that's where you go to launch the apps and to change all the settings. So the next thing we're going to go in and have a look at is an app called Wander. And Wander is one of the things that in the public libraries we are starting to use a lot with the clients and the groups that we're working with. So Wander is basically Google Earth, but with the headset on, it's so much more immersive than looking at it on a PC desktop, because you've got the full 360 movement, up, down, left, right, round about, and so on. And how we use it with people is we ask them, and this is going back to the kind of doing your bucket list at your local library, but we ask them things like, tell us about a place that you've always wanted to visit, and we can take them there. We can also ask them, tell us about a place that you've been to before and you've always wanted to go back to. Tell us about a place that you remember growing up in your childhood, and we can go back and we can see how much it's changed. So there's a lot of potential around reminiscence. I'm not sure where you are at the moment, Paul. It always seems to start up at a random location when you first go into it. But where we're going, because we picked a couple of places to go to for today's presentation. So where we're going is Santa Claus's village in Finland. Because this is some of the things that we like to do with these kind of things is we'll choose a theme, and with that group, everybody does the same experience. So it's like taking people on a virtual trip or a virtual tour where you're going. So this particular location is one of Wander's what they call collections. So they pull together a lot of different things that they think people will be interested in, and we'll just bring them all into one place at the one time. So we're outside Santa's house, and we're just about to go in. So what you can do with Wander is you can link, we've got 5 headsets, so theoretically we could have 5 people all in the same place at the same time. And there he is, there's the man, that's Santa. And as Paul's looking around, you'll see that there's arrows on the floor, and the little white dot turns into a blue disc, and that means that you can explore your environment. So you can be walking around, and then now you know what Santa's workshop looks like. It really does depend, and Wander's one of those apps that strongly depends on good quality Wi-Fi and internet being available, because it's streaming that content live. You can't download that kind of stuff in advance. So fortunate today that Paul remembered to bring his phone along, because we tried to connect to the Wi-Fi earlier, and while we could connect to it, something in the settings was preventing us from casting from the VR headset onto the tablet. And it's the tablet that you're actually looking at just now that's connected up at the back there. But being able to cast is actually quite important when you're with a group of people who are maybe a bit reluctant and not quite sure what to expect, because you can take one of these headsets along, cast it up onto a screen like this, and then people can see, before they put the headset on, what they're actually going to experience. So it makes people feel a lot more relaxed about it. I'll just give you a quick mother-in-law story. Don't worry, it's not a Bernard Manning version. It's I took one of the kids home at Christmas, because I'm the boss, so I'm allowed to. And we had a wee sort of game session in the house, and old Agnes she's a tough nut to crack. Most conversations start, "Agnes, would you like to?" "No." And that's pretty much how it finishes. But we were able to do something like this, and she saw it on the TV screen, because we hooked it up to the TV screen, and she really started to become interested in it. And believe me, getting her to engage in anything at all is a major achievement. And the thing that she most wanted to do was use this Wander app, and what she wanted to show us was where she used to go on holiday when she was young. So that was something that really engaged her and interested her. And she wouldn't have done it, I don't think, if she hadn't seen it casted up on the screen so that she knew what to expect. So this is the Christ the Redeemer statue. And this is like an example of the kind of thing where you say to people, where have you always wanted to go? Where have you always wanted to visit that you would never get the chance to do so ordinarily? And what Paul's shown you here is the fact that Wander has a timeline feature. So you've now jumped to a different time where it was full of people milling about, and you'll see that in this particular thing, everybody's face is blurred, because that's just what Google do, which is strange, because when you think back to Santa, you saw his face, so Santa must have signed a GDPR agreement. Okay. Right, this is, so you have to indulge me, because this is a personal favourite of mine. What you're looking at here, and this is an example of something that you can work with a group where you have somewhere that's got some sort of special meaning or special relevance to them. So that's Love Street in Paisley, as it is, well, 2 years ago now, where a very famous and very well known, unfortunately not so good, football team play. And as you can see, that particular image, you can go right back to 2008. And there's the stadium, the grand old stadium, Theatre of Dreams, before it was knocked down to make way for housing, which is what's on that site now. So, and there it is now. So it's a good way to show people how their environment has changed over years. Unfortunately, we don't really see too many images going back much further than 2008. So you won't get any sepia-toned images, unfortunately, but it does give you some scope to work with groups around that. Okay, so we'll move on to another app which we use, which is called Within. And Within is a series of, you would call it, specially created VR experiences. So it's films. Some of them can be animations, some of them can be actual movies. But the good thing about Within is that you can download that content in advance. So if you're taken to your kit to any place which doesn't have Wi-Fi, for example, you're not prevented from doing stuff with it. You can actually have people in advance telling you what the kind of stuff that they're interested in. You can find it, you can download it. You can see there's lots of different subjects, lots of different topics and themes. This particular one has been filmed, and it's, if you click play, so I won't go through the whole film because it's about 4 minutes long, but if you can just about make out what Paul's listening to, it's a it's a shame you're only seeing it in 2D, because when you've experienced it with the headset on, it is so immersive and informative as well. I can certainly see in the monitor down here just how clear that picture is. You guys can probably see that at the back too. It's not quite so clear there, but you know, the range of experiences that we can offer people, and that's again going back to the whole idea of come and do your bucket list at your library. You know, you would never get the chance to fly in a helicopter normally and experience this kind of thing.
Gradually warming the planet and slowly melting these pristine fields of ice and snow. Since the Industrial Revolution, people have helped raise Earth's temperatures about 1 degree Celsius.
Okay, we'll move on to the YouTube app, Paul, if you can hear me.
Iceland sits just
I'm not sure you can. No, he does. Right, there we go. So YouTube is a free app, and all the content on it is free as well. Unfortunately, that's one of the other apps which does require a connection to the internet. You can't download that content in advance. But for some of the more extreme things that people might want to do, again, going back to the whole idea of a bucket list, with the headset on, you can do, you know, you can jump out of airplanes, you can swim with sharks. I would not have believed just how many videos there are of people jumping out of things, off of things, onto things. Everybody wants to do it with a GoPro strapped to their head. So this one is, you know, if you've ever fancied doing a downhill skiing, is that Austria? The problem with YouTube is because you're streaming it, sometimes there can be a lag and the quality can drop. So we might not dwell too much on this unless it looks not too bad now. So you've got the headset on. You're pretty much experiencing what you see there. Now that's quite a gentle one. I've done some where it's actually made me quite nauseous. And, you know, I like roller coasters and I like experiences like that, but there's some of them, it does something with your brain. And you just have to be aware of that, actually, when you are working with older people, is that, you know, it's almost like saying to them, you know, if you want to stop, just do that and we'll take the headset off. Okay, how are we for time? Slightly over, right, okay. We will finish off in that case with anybody interested in volunteering? Lots of looking at feet and shuffling of papers.
You go, girl.
Excellent.
Never see you again.
Oh. Load up the Beat Saber.
Yep. This is the end.
So as well as the mental health side of it, there's also a physical element, and some of the partners that we work with include, for example, the Trust's Vitality team. So they do things around gentle exercise, small movements, just trying to encourage people back. And this is quite a fun app that we found, and it actually comes free with the headset, so that's a bonus as well.
Now cut the cubes in the arrow direction and match the color.
And the kind of thing that you do with it is your handsets are lightsabers. So who's never wanted a lightsaber? And now you get two, one red, one blue. And the idea is boxes come towards you. You have to cut the right colour box with the right colour lightsaber in the right direction. And the movements, these kind of movements, there'll be other things come towards you that you've got to step out of the way from, not step too far or I'll fall off the stage here.
Welcome to Beat Saber. Stand in the background and put the sabers into these rings to start.
Okay, we see.
So you see your left and your right hand, you
Yeah.
lift them up and put them into those
All
rings.
right.
And then what do you do?
You need to put them in so that if you
Aren't they?
An awful lot of patience is required when working with some individuals.
Oh, really?
which do it,
That is it. Go on.
What Paul didn't demonstrate at the start is the fact that
box are coming at you.
when you first put the headset
Oh,
on,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
you've got to create a boundary, a kind of a safe zone. And if you step outside that safe zone,
Cut through that.
then the camera on the front of the screen becomes active, so you can actually see. And that's to stop you walking into walls or falling off things or bumping into things.
I can, yeah, not just though. I think I need the glasses.
Use your left and right hand.
What colours am I looking for?
Red and blue.
I can't see red and blue.
That's
Oh,
blue.
no, that's blue. What do I do with that?
And to use your right hand, that's what
Mental note for next presentation, choose a volunteer who's not colourblind.
you slide through the wall.
Slides,
Yep.
like that.
Yep,
Up or
so
down?
higher.
So the idea that the range of movement is supposed to be a bit more than just the wrist. You get more points when you do that kind of
It's
movement.
not easy.
It's not easy.
Slicing,
Is it?
cutting.
Not right.
Wrong color. Wrong color.
I'm so colourblind.
So what I was going to say when I was talking about setting the boundary, you have to remember that sometimes
Head down.
No,
people can see.
Down that.
If they step outside the boundary, the camera lets them see what's happening. So try not to let your emotions get away with you and do the old silent scream. Press that bloody button.
That one, blue.
That's blue. There's
that
some
all?
blues now, it's getting more complicated. That's it.
That was too soon.
Hello.
Wait for the beat.
Oh,
It's called Beat Saber because you're supposed to cut on the beat.
That was too soon.
Most people would be onto the game by now. We're still in the tutorial. I think we'll maybe cut our losses and end it there. But a big hand for our volunteer. Well done.
so good. So good.
Good. Excellent. Thank you.